Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to talk about the slowing of the Earth's rotation. The next couple of topics that I think I'm going to try to cover are the pole shifts, the magnetic pole shifts, and its weakening. And I want to talk about climate change because I think all three of these particular topics are actually interrelated. So I'm going to try to do this as a little bit of a series, and then try to do one that maybe ties all of this together. So according to a Newsweek article, the 20th of November, 2017, they started discussing the fact that the Earth's rotation has slowed. Now, understanding how the Earth's rotation affects all of the life on the planet is kind of important. So I want to discuss a little bit about that, and then talk about some of the aspects that what those effects will potentially bring to, or changes that these effects will bring to the planet Earth. So one of the things about the Earth's rotation, so the Earth rotates, and I don't know, there's different numbers, but it roughly rotates at about 1,100 miles an hour, right? So one rotation is equivalent to 24 hours currently. It used to be about 22 hours. So the Earth rotates, it speeds up, it slows down, it rotates on a wobbled axis of approximately, I think it's like 23%. Anyway, it's not exactly perpendicular, so it does have a slight rotation to it. But that rotation is also part of the responsible for the gravitation and the gravity that we have on the planet, what keeps us from flinging off into space. So one of the byproducts of that, if you will, is there's this bulge of water around the equator. And it's estimated to be about 21.36 kilometers, or roughly 13 miles in height, or depth, whatever you want to look at it. So that's a little bit of water. So as the Earth's rotation slows, and according to the Newsweek article, this first occurred, or that they first talked about it in 2012. So the Earth's rotation has been slowing for a period of time. Okay. I'm not going to try to get into all the scientific stuff. There's articles on that. What I want to talk about is what can happen because of this slowing of Earth. So as the Earth slows, this bulge of water is going to expand out. It's going to go basically north and south towards the equators. So what does that mean? It means that it will, excuse me, it will basically shorten the shorelines, because as this water expands out, it's going to cover more and more of the low-lying areas, like along the coast, Florida. I think Florida is like highest points like 20-some feet above sea level. So what that's going to happen tomorrow? No, probably not. Is the Earth going to stop rotation? Maybe we'll discuss that in a little bit later in one of the other videos. But the fact remains that the Earth's rotation is slowing. And as this Earth rotation slows, so is the force that holds that water bulging at the equator in place. So that does mean that the shorelines will recede. So, and as these shorelines recede, there's going to be some impacts. Now, like I said, this all kind of ties in with climate change and stuff. Now, climate change, as the Earth's rotation slows, it also means that there'll be more um, heat absorbed by the Earth and the water, which can then create um, more intense storms. In the World Reset, the book I wrote, it talks about the pole shifting, which, as I said, we'll get into later. But one of the aspects or effects from all of this was the fact that the storms were more intense. They were stronger, they were more in duration, there were more of them. So these are things that you can kind of keep an eye on. Some of the places I go to the Suspicious Observer. I like the way they discuss the interaction between the sun and the earth and how all of these things impact us. But you're also going to see an increase in earthquake activity because as the earth slows, just because the earth is slowing does not mean that everything that's on top of the earth is going to slow at the same speed. It's kind of like, when a moving car hits a stationary object, everything within that vehicle is still continuing to move forward until it comes to rest based on wherever it hit. It's going to be the same thing with this. So as the Earth slows, the crust is also going to start to be impacted by this, which could increase earthquake activities. So, as with everything, this is not to try and scare anybody, but it is to make you aware of what's going on, and that to start to take precautions to plan against such a time that this increases. Our problem is not with the climate or the earth or any of that stuff. The problem is humans exist in locations that they like. Okay, there are people who like the coast of Florida and along the different Atlantic, Pacific, Mediterranean, all those coasts. I'm not one of them, but there are folks that do. The problem is not the environment. The problem is that we do not adjust to the environment, and we are trying to control what's happening on the planet because of where we are. Back in, before humans started to create these big cities that we live in now, a lot of the folks were nomads. They continued to move. The effect of some of these activities of the planet had less influence on the people because the people were constantly moving. If nobody lived on the coast, there would be no problem because, as the water came up, there wouldn't be anybody there or any objects there to be impacted. However, since we have these cities and stuff now, the people are kind of in the wrong place. So I'm not telling everybody to move, and I know I'll probably get some grief from this. What I'm saying is we need to consider thinking about how our environment is around us, and we need to live in harmony with it instead of trying to adapt it to what we want it to do. Eventually, the environment is going to win. We cannot stop the plate tectonics from moving. We cannot stop the ocean. I mean, if it's possible, I don't know how it's possible. It would take billions of dollars, and even then, I'm not sure what would be the result of all that. So, something to think about. if you do live on the coast, then you for sure definitely need to have a plan. And that part of that plan needs to include finding a location away from the coast, especially in times of these severe storms and stuff. But eventually, if the planet continues to slow, and like I said, we will talk about some of these other things in some of the other videos. If this planet continues to slow, as this water from the equator starts to press north and south away from the equator, there's going to be less and less land on the coast. That's just the fact of life. Yeah, we can probably try to build some levees. We might be able to hold it at bay for a while, but eventually it's going to take over. So you need to think about that. One of the other things is, geologically speaking, and I think we've talked about this in some of the other videos, but geologically speaking, there's a lot of limestone under that we live on. That limestone is formed in a marine type environment. It's the skeletal remains of microorganisms that have then solidified to become rock. So, Kentucky is known for its limestone formations. Yugoslavia is known for it. In fact, the term karst topography came from the Yugoslavic region. So there's even some large limestone deposits that are underneath of Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, Kuwait, all those areas out there. So the fact is, at some point in history, a majority of the land that is now exposed was in fact underwater. So when that limestone was deposited, that limestone was formed when it was under an ocean. So it should not be too surprising that, history repeating itself and stuff, that eventually this land may also become back underwater. So, because a lot of the things that happen on Earth are cyclic. Problem is, the cycles are so long that it spans multiple generations, and folks have lost records of some of these things. So what can you do if this Earth does continue to slow as it's talking about? One estimate based on tides was like 2.3 milliseconds a year, but then they said that in real life it's like 1.8 or something, so they didn't understand that. But whichever one you want to go with, it doesn't matter to me. The point remains, as the Earth slows, the water is going to rise. So mean sea level is going to rise, which means areas that are along coastal waterways, along the Pacific, Florida, parts of Georgia, Carolinas, Virginia, DC, Maine, California, Mexico, all of these different areas are going to have less and less land and more water. So in the short term, whether this happens in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime or our grandkids or our great-grandkids, eventually this will happen. I mean, unless we become, like Aquaman and live underwater, it's going to happen. So in the meantime, things that you can do to be ready for this are to have a plan that includes an evacuation from along the coastal areas, especially in times of the storms like we're talking about, hurricanes, typhoons, cyclones, whatever you want to call them. Depends on what ocean you're talking about. which is going to lead you to a problem, because if you intend to bug in, and you're a prepper and you plan to bug in, that particular event is an event that you probably will not want to bug in with. There was that big, hurricane that just hit down by Homestead, Florida. That place looked like a bomb hit it. So anytime that there's a hurricane, it behooves you to evacuate the area, because water is something that will just demolish anything in its path. So you need to have a plan, which includes locating a safe site somewhere outside of that area. Okay. Now, 13 miles worth of water at a depth of 13 miles, that's going to be a lot of water. So eventually you're going to have to be on the other side of the Appalachian mountain chain. But for now, you need to be, if you live anywhere along the Gulf or Atlantic or Pacific coast, you need to locate a place far enough away that that storm cannot impact you. That may mean being all the way out of Florida, all the way out of Georgia, and all the way out of the Carolinas, somewhere west of the Appalachian mountain chain. Okay. The other problem that's going to present itself is the fact that if you are storing all of your supplies and resources in your home and you live along the coast, unless you have like a fleet of semis, you're not going to probably be able to take all your stuff with you. So when you do locate this other site, you would want to start stocking your supplies in your alternate location. Okay. Are there some situations in which you can bug in along the coast? Yes, but a hurricane is definitely not one of those. So you need to start to balance between the two sites. Find a location of a friend or family member. There is a class that I teach, and then service that we offer, where we offer site evaluation and site selection, which is a logical and methodical way of locating a location somewhere other than where you are, without requiring you to travel all over the world to figure out where that location might be. You can do it using geospatial methods, which again, that's what I do, or what I did for a living in the Army. So there are ways of finding places that will enable you to find a safe site based on the criteria that you're looking for. So some of the other things, the intensity of inland storms, tornadoes and such, because there is a lot more energy in the atmosphere, these are going to probably generate much stronger, more intense, more frequent storms inland as well. There was an article I read the other day that talked about Tornado Alley was actually moving more to the east. That could be part of this this additional heating that's coming about due to the slowing of the Earth's rotation. So, so those are things that you need to think about. But you need to be cognizant of what's going on around you. Again, this is where the situational awareness comes into play. We discussed that in a previous video about being situationally aware. Situationally aware does not just include being situationally aware of the people and things, activities going on around you, but it includes the activities that nature has going on around you. So that's how you kind of how all this stuff kind of ties in with each other. being able to react in time, which leads to, again, having that written plan. And as part of that plan, you have what is the trigger? What happens? What event occurs that begins the process of enacting your plan? Okay. In a hurricane, it may be, when a hurricane warning is cited. With, tornadoes, it may be something, a tornado warning. If it's a human influenced, it may be, something, riots starting to take place near where you are. So it just depends. But you need to identify what that is. You need to think that through now before the event occurs, so that when it does occur, you're not taken by surprise and you don't have to question whether or not it's time to activate the plan. You need to know what that is and then enact that. Okay? And it's, my opinion, it's always better to err on the side of caution than to wait till it's too late. And if you wait until the hurricane is bearing down on top of you, it's too late. Especially on a lot of those roads in Florida, you're just not going to be able to get away. And it's the same on most of those coastal areas. The Key West, there's like one road in and out of the Key West. Virginia, there's like one road that comes in and out of like the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. Maryland, same thing. It's got like one or two main roads. So if those roads become clogged, then it's going to be like, the scene on, what was that show? The Deep Impact. We get all those people in their cars trying to get away. But they can't because there's just too much traffic. The roads are not designed to handle that much traffic. And even if you have all 4 lanes going, there's just too many people, too many cars, and not enough roadways. Okay, so don't wait till it's too late. The things, again, that you would need is, start with the basics: food, water, shelter. And in the case of like hurricanes and things, you need to have, probably at least 2 weeks to 2 months to begin. Now, does that mean that tonight, because of this, that you need to go out and buy 2 months worth of food? No, it's not. But you need to start tonight acquiring these different resources so that you will have that amount. And even if something happens before you get that, you have at least more than you had if you start now. Some people that watch these things probably have, years worth of food. But what if that food is at a house that's along the coast and is in the path of a hurricane or, sea level rising or whatever? Like I said, unless you've got tractor trailers at your beck and call, you're probably not going to be able to get all that stuff out of there. Okay, so work now planning on what you will do and how you will get your family, your friends, those that you love and care about, to a safe location that is outside of the affected area. Okay, again, have a plan, have collect the household information, have a contact plan, contact somebody that you can depend on outside of the area. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on right now and today across the world. It looks kind of challenging, bleak. But if you are mentally prepared if you understand the things that can potentially happen and you plan against those things so that when something happens, you're ready for it, it doesn't have to be so bleak. And if you are spiritually prepared, it doesn't matter. You can, being mentally and spiritually prepared gives you that peace inside that says, I'm ready. Okay. So, I'll probably get a lot of grief from this video. I hope not. I hope people are receptive. I don't want to put a lot of fear into people because that's not my intent. I don't try, to spread any kind of fear. I don't try to make anything off of trying to scare somebody. There's enough folks out there that do that right now. I don't need to do that as well. My mission, my goal is to help people to become mentally, spiritually, and physically ready. Okay? So that starts with one step, by starting to create this plan and then follow the plan so that when things happen and they go sideways, then you know what to do, and those around you know what to do as well. Okay? So again, like I said, we're going to talk about climate change. I want to talk about the magnetic pole shifting and what some of those impacts could be on us. And then my goal is to try and tie all of this stuff together so that you can kind of get a bigger picture of what I think potentially could happen. So again, if there's a topic that you would like discussed on this channel, please let me know. Email me, guy@greatlivingsources.com. You can message me in Facebook. I have 2 Facebook pages, GL Sky, which is the one that I use for my books and stuff as the author, and Great Living Sources, which again is the emergency readiness stuff. And you can, leave a comment on the YouTube channel. So, but let us know, and if there is something that concerns you, let us know. Maybe we can help you to just figure it out so that you can get that peace of mind that if something happens that you're going to be ready and that it's going to be okay. All right. So please subscribe and like the videos so that other people can find them. But the biggest thing is to stay safe and stay ready, and remember the core of calm. If we're balanced, it doesn't matter what happens, we can deal with whatever comes our way. All right. So thank you, and until tomorrow.